Welcome to this lecture sponsored by the Institute of World Politics. For those of you who are new, IWP is the Independent Graduate School of National Security, Intelligence, and International Affairs. We offer a doctoral program, 7 master's degree programs, including 2 online MAs and 18 certificates of graduate study. If you are interested in learning more about us, please visit us online at iwp.edu. We'd like to thank all of our supporters who make our IWP Events program possible. To support the work of IWP, please visit iwp.edu/donate. Today we are here to listen to Dr. Marcin Romanowski. Mr. Romanowski is a Polish politician and a lawyer. His career in public service saw him serve as a Undersecretary of State in 2023, advancing to Secretary of State in the Ministry of Justice later that year. After a shift in the Polish political landscape, Romanowski faced political persecution under the Tusk regime, leading him to become the first political refugee from Poland since 1989. He was granted asylum by Hungary. Dr. Romanowski, the floor is yours.
On October 15, 2023, the Conservative Law and Justice Party in Poland won the parliamentary elections, but failed to secure a majority sufficient to form a government. Consequently, 2 months later, a liberal government was formed under the leadership of Donald Tusk. One of the key slogans, if not the primary one of the new government, was holding predecessors to account. For years, Tusk has accused the Law and Justice government in power from 2015 to 2023 of destroying the rule of law, a claim that was a political falsehood. Particularly targeted by the liberals were the laws concerning the Supreme Court, the Constitutional Court, and the National Council of Judiciary, adopted by the conservative majority. These laws were accused entirely without basis of being unconstitutional. However, that is a topic of another lecture. Now, Tusk returned to power with a clear mission to eliminate political opponents so that the conservatives in Poland could never again challenge liberal dogmas, including political correctness, aggressive Christianophobia, gender or climate-related ideologies. The main goal, however, is to destroy anyone who could oppose the deconstruction of sovereignty and the creation of the European superstate. It is important to note that in Europe in recent years, the circles centered around law and justice and sovereignty Poland parties alongside Hungarian Fidesz formed the strongest hub of conservative sovereignists politics in Europe. The day on which Tusk's government was established, December 13, is particularly significant. This date carries the worst connotations for Poles, as it is widely recognized as the day in 1981 when martial law was introduced, establishing a communist military dictatorship in Poland. It is worth remembering that Poland was under Soviet occupation from 1945 to 1989. However, the intensity of bloody persecutions occurred primarily until 1956 and again after 1981. During martial law, opposition activists were interned or imprisoned, and many were forced to flee abroad. Catholic priests were persecuted, strikes and social protest violently suppressed, and at least dozens of people were killed, often in circumstances that remain unexplained today. Although communism fell after 1989, the current liberal coalition's rule is increasingly being described as a lawless regime, earning the nickname the December 13th coalition. It is worth noting that among the ranks of the current ruling coalition, there are numerous former high-ranking officials of the former Polish Communist Party, which was dissolved in 1990. One example is Leszek Miller, a former prime minister and member of the European Parliament, who, when I was granted political asylum in Hungary in December 2024, suggested that I be abducted from Budapest and transported in a car trunk, which was a method commonly used against opposition activists during the communist era. Another example is the deputy speaker of Polish Sejm, Włodzimierz Czarzasty. And also Ryszard Kalisz, a prominent member of the National Electoral Commission, so the body responsible for ensuring fair elections. Thousands of judges, especially from higher instance courts, were also appointed before 1989. Some of them tarnished their reputation with unjust rulings against the underground anti-communist opposition in the time. Comparisons to martial law regime, although proportional, carry not only a symbolic dimension, but also stem from numerous features of the ruling liberal coalitions. During the communist era, a government imposed by Moscow served interests alien to the Polish nation. The current government has in practice been imposed on Poland by external powers. For 8 years, Tusk utilized the central institutions of the European Union and the Council of Europe to attack the reforms of the conservative government. As a result, and due to a lack of sufficient determination on the part of President Andrzej Duda and certain member of law and justice representatives, the reform of the judiciary was blocked. Additionally, for Tusk, one of the most important, if not the crucial topics of his electoral campaign 2023 was the blocking of several billions euros in European funds for Poland from a so-called European Recovery Fund. This led to blackmail from Brussels and Berlin with the message that only Tusk's victory would unlock these funds. The blackmail provided effective, and Tusk formed a majority government after the elections. Today, we see a government that implements directives from Berlin and Brussels often contrary to Poland's interests. There are many examples of such actions. Delaying the construction of the so-called central communication port, which is crucial for Poland's position in Europe, serves only the interests of German transport hubs. Similarly, excluding the other river from inland waterway development under the pretext of environmental protection strengthens German transport routes. The similarities became particularly evident when one takes a closer look at the ideological underpinnings. This issue would, of course, require separate in-depth discussion, if only to highlight the connections between so-called false liberalism and neo-Marxism. The fact remains that Marxism and communism, at least in Poland as ideologies, are relics of the past. However, modern postmodernism and various denominations of woke ideology rooted in neo-Marxist assumptions have spread across Western countries, devastating virtually all areas of social, cultural, political, and economic life. The new government's policies in Poland are saturated with this neo-Marxist ideology, from gender demands and radical environmentalism to promoting migration in a way that endangers not only national identity, but also national security. Furthermore, we are witnessing a systematic attack on Christianity, the foundation of Polish identity. Violating even the internal rules of the legal system is another commonality. The new government has unlawfully taken control of public media, the prosecution service, and the judiciary, often through the use of force, manipulating judicial appointments, ignoring rulings from the Constitutional Court and the Supreme Court. All these actions point to the systematic violation of the principles of the separation of powers and the rule of law. Even worse, all these actions are concealed under the false pretense of restoring the rule of law. And this is a typical in a lawless state, a typical manipulation. Those in power appeal to values they have no intention of respecting, seeking only to legitimize their actions. In his speech in the Polish Senate on September 10, 2024, Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated, I quote, if we want to restore constitutional order and the foundations of liberal democracy, we must act within the framework of militant democracy. This means that we will probably make mistakes or take actions that, according to some legal authorities, might not fully align with the letter of the law. But nothing exempts us from duty to act. End of quote. So, the concept of streitbare Demokratie, originating in German and partly Anglo-Saxon legal and political tradition of militant democracy, was aimed at dealing with the past of totalitarian regimes such as Nazism or communism, and protecting the new order from the return of the ancien regime. However, applying these exceptional tools in normal democratic conditions is dangerous and leads to the erosion of standard legal mechanisms. The Polish example illustrates how legal concepts can be manipulated for political purposes. In the past, the classical understanding of fundamental legal terms such as jus, lex, justitia was reinterpreted as seen during the rise of positivist modernism in 19th and 20th century. However, in the era of woke ideology, these meanings have been completely inverted. Especially justice, justitia, has been transformed into a mechanism for suppressing opposition, consolidating power, and advancing foreign interests at the expense of the common good. As a result, we find ourselves in a situation where law and the judiciary have become instruments for the political persecution of dissent. I too became a victim of political persecution. I won't dwell at this moment on the details of my case. This is the subject of another lecture, but the systematic breaches of the rule of law and politically motivated nature of charges and proceedings against me were recognized by the Hungarian government, which granted me legal protection and political asylum. I became the first Polish opposition politician since the communist era to receive political asylum in another country, an EU member state at that. This was based on the fact that I was subjected to political persecution in Poland and had no chance of accessing a fair and impartial justice system. Sadly, given the current situation in Poland, I will likely not be the last to seek such an asylum. But this all developments are the result of over a year of rule by the so-called December 13th coalition. During this time, not a week has passed without a blatant violation of the law or outright criminal acts committed by those in power. Crimes for which individuals like Prime Minister Tusk, former Minister of Culture Sienkiewicz, and Minister of Justice Bodnar already face potential life imprisonment. I would now like to discuss the first step in constructing a lawless state in Poland, namely the illegal and forceful takeover of public media, occurred on December 20, 2023, so 1 week after the creation of the new liberal government. On that day, there was an invasion of the buildings of Polish television, Polish radio, and Polish press agency by the new illegal authorities of public media. the news television channel's signal was cut off, and its website was also taken down. This was the result of an unlawful decision made on December 19 by the Minister of Culture and National Heritage, Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz, currently a member of the European Parliament. The decision to dismiss the former chairpersons of the boards of companies responsible for public television, public radio, and public Polish press agency, along with the supervisory board. Those actions occurred despite the provisional judgment issued by the Constitutional Court on December 14, 2023, which required the Minister of Culture and National Heritage to refrain from any actions aimed at changing the management of public radio and public television entities. Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz's violation of the Constitutional Court's judgment means that he exceeded the authority and acted to the detriment of the state treasury and the public interests, ignoring the Constitutional Court's decision. And this decisions were unlawful as they relied on the provisions of the Commercial Companies Code and General Regulation for Joint Stock Companies, which assigned the authority to appoint company bodies to the shareholders meeting. In the case of public media owned by the state treasury, the representative of the owner and therefore the sole member of the shareholders meeting would be the Minister of Culture. However, the appointment of management and supervisory boards for public broadcasting companies and the Polish Press Agency is governed exclusively by the Act on the National Media Council and the Act on the Polish Press Agency. These acts serve as lex specialis, so specific regulations that override the general provisions of the Commercial Companies Code. Under these laws, the National Media Council is the only body authorized to appoint and dismiss the management and supervisory boards of Polish public media and not the minister. It is worth noting that the basis for the minister's illegal decision was on the political level a parliamentary resolution passed on December 19, titled Restoring the Rule of Law, Impartiality and Reliability of Public Media and Polish Press Agency. However, it is important to emphasize that parliamentary resolution is not a binding source of law, as the Polish constitution requires that such matters be regulated by legislation. The resolution adopted solely by the votes of the ruling coalition and filled with empty platitudes about the need to restore media pluralism, called on the Minister of Culture, I quote, to immediately overtake corrective actions aimed at achieving the objects set out in this resolution and ensuring the proper functioning of public radio and public units, as well as the Polish Press Agency, in accordance with the standards of the rule of law during the transitional period. It is until appropriate legislative solutions are enacted and implemented. End of quote. So, in the following months, the practice of governing not through binding laws, but via non-binding resolutions or even private legal opinions became widespread. At that time, the full implication of the phrase about the necessity of taking actions during the transitional period were not widely recognized. This concept amounted to nothing less than the MP's tacit acceptance of lawlessness. The situation stemmed from the ruling coalition's inability to master 3/5 majority required to override the presidential veto. That's the fact, but it's not the argument of the acceptance of lawlessness. Well, it's important to note that that the vast majority of private media in Poland represented left liberal worldview and were often owned by a foreign corporation. The purpose of the ruling coalition was to eliminate access to reliable and accurate information provided by Polish public television, which enjoyed broad viewership at home and abroad as well. The goal was to strengthen the liberal censorship in Polish traditional media. According to recent surveys, after a takeover of public media, the public television viewership of the viewership of news channel has dropped by 70%. And the shutdown of the news channel signal also led to substantial financial losses for the whole public company. On December 20, illegally appointed representatives of the new public media authorities attempted to seize public media buildings by force, using the police and a private company. At the headquarters of the television station on Woronicza Street in Warsaw, scuffles broke out with opposition MPs who had intervened after being alerted by public media employees. One opposition MP, Mrs. Joanna Borowiak, was injured in the process. The main headquarters of public television on Woronicza Street and public radio were quickly taken over by the illegitimate authorities. For several days, the headquarters of the Polish Press Agency was defended. the longest standing center of resistance until mid-January 2024 was the headquarters of the news channel located in the very heart of the city at Powstańców Warszawy Square. Protesters gathered daily in front of the building to defend media freedom, while opposition MPs and media employees maintained constant shifts inside, preventing the illegitimate authorities from taking over the station and removing valuable equipment. However, in all public media institutions, numerous unlawful actions took place, preventing journalists from performing their duties, leading to politically motivated dismissals of journalists by government-appointed illegal administrators or liquidators, and violating labor laws. Acting as a member of parliament, I filed a criminal complaint to the prosecutor's office regarding the attack on public television just an hour after the receiving information about the forceful entry to the headquarters of the public station on Woronicza Street in Warsaw and the assault on MP Joanna Borowiak on December 2023. I was at that time in the building of the Polish parliament. Notification included alleged abuse of power by Minister Sienkiewicz and other public officials. It's Article 231 of the Polish Penal Code, violation of the personal inviolability of a public official, MP Joanna Borowiak, as well as possible other acts against personal inviolability. Some days after, one journalist revealed information about wejście, in Polish entrance group operating on the WhatsApp messengers, whose members were organizing the takeover of public media on the orders of Minister of Culture. It was a base to file to the prosecutor's office on December 27, 2023, notice of suspected crime, another notice. The conversation available on the messenger indicate that members of the group participated in the forceful takeover of public media at least since December 19, 2023, jointly discussing and planning their actions while being aware of their unlawful nature, which may constitute an offense under Article 258 of the Polish Penal Code. It is acting as a part of an organized criminal group. As the result of the group's actions, control of public media was taken over, which was done with gross violation of law. The prosecutor's office was asked to initiate a criminal investigation and determine the role of all those unlawfully appointed to the supervisory boards and management of public media, including well-known lawyers associated with the ruling camp as Marek Błoński, Sylwia Grzegorczyk, Abram, Tomasz Sygut, Mikołaj Kozak, Piotr Zemła, Maciej Taborowski, or Bartosz Przeciechowski and others, as well as possible decision makers, namely Bartłomiej Sienkiewicz and Prime Minister Donald Tusk. To safeguard public order and the rule of law, the Warsaw Prosecutor's Office highlighted the illegitimacy of the request for changes in the management bodies of public media companies. Additionally, it was revealed during the proceeding that the minutes of the general shareholders meeting held on December 19, documented in the form of notarial deed, serving as the basis for the Minister of Culture's actions regarding the public media, had been falsified. Unfortunately, further investigation into this matter was suspended following the unlawful dismissal of Dariusz Barski from his position as a national prosecutor, and the equally unlawful appointment by Donald Tusk of a new national prosecutor, fully subvenient to him in his place, which is the subject of another lecture, so I will not describe it now in detail. Additionally, in unprecedented move, Minister of Justice and Prosecutor General Adam Bodnar, in a letter dated December 29, 2023, personally took over the case regarding the unlawful media changes made by the Minister of Culture. At that time, Bodnar was serving as a senator, which precluded him assuming the role of an ordinary prosecutor. According to Article 103 and 108 of the Polish Constitution, the roles of senator and prosecutor cannot be combined, and the prosecutor general cannot engage in prosecutional functions. Such a combination of functions should result in the termination of the Senate mandate. At the end of December 2023, the request to terminate Adam Bodnar's senator's mandate was sent by me to the Marshal of the Senate, Małgorzata Kidawa-Błońska, from the ruling Civic Platform Party. Some months later, I received a negative response. But these actions also raise justified suspicions of exceeding authority, as Adam Bodnar, despite holding the political position of prosecutor general, was neither a professional ordinary prosecutor nor authorized to handle specific cases. Well, As we know, Poland is a member of Council of Europe, an international organization that should protect fundamental human rights and freedoms, including freedom of speech and media freedom. During the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe session on January 24, 2024, a draft resolution titled Media Pluralism Under Threat in Poland was submitted by MP Arkadiusz Mularczyk, highlighting that the Polish government's actions against public media threaten media pluralism and violate fundamental rights protected by the European Convention on Human Rights. The draft resolution condemned the government's unprecedented methods to suppress public broadcasting, echoing concern about democratic security and media freedom in Europe. It should be noted that the attacks on freedom of speech and media freedom continued. TV Republika, the second or even the first largest news broadcaster in Poland after the public media takeover, faced ongoing discrimination, including being barred from attending government press conferences, such as during the September 2024 floods in southwestern Poland. In response, I submitted a draft peace resolution on October 1st, 2024, condemning these actions as violations of media freedom and media pluralism, as well as the public's right to information, urging Poland to adhere to democratic standards and Council of Europe obligations. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, none of these projects have been forwarded for further consideration. The left liberal majority in the Council of Europe is not interested in protecting human rights when violations concern groups with conservative worldviews. This organization had long lost its original character, becoming yet another tool for advancing liberal woke propaganda. Reports from non-governmental organizations revealed the significant influence of groups linked to George Soros on the appointment of members to the most important body of the Council of Europe, the Strasbourg Court. But let us return to the issue of public media in Poland. Following the actions taken by Polish MPs, media coverage exposing the government's illegal conduct and the efforts of the prosecutor's office before it too was unlawfully taken over by the government, defending the blatant violations of the National Media Council Act became increasingly untenable. In response, the Minister of Culture adopted a new tactic, placing the companies operating public media into liquidation, aiming to seize control through liquidators appointed by him. This maneuver is a clear legal fiction, as the public media continue to operate more than a year after so-called liquidation, employing staff including pro-government propagandists falsely labeled as journalists and signing lucrative contracts with external entities for television program production. Furthermore, despite being in liquidation, these companies received billions of zlotys from the state budget to sustain their operation. It's equally clear that all those involved in these actions must understand they will ultimately face both criminal and, in this regard, also financial accountability. In summary, regarding the first illegal action of the coalition of December 14, the forcible takeover of public media, it must be stated that the ruling authorities in Poland clearly understand the role of media as the fourth power, alongside the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. This is why they undertook this move to secure control over media narratives and shield themselves from public scrutiny and of their future actions. Secondly, they fully grasp that the most controversial measures must be implemented immediately within the first months or even weeks of governance. On the other hand, the weeks-long resistance sparked social engagement in Poland, and conservative journalists who were ousted from public media strengthened private conservative outlets such as TV Republika and in Poland 24. These channels, once relatively niche, evolve into highly significant and even leading news platforms.